Welcome back, Mark. We're talking about Tintri, and we've gone through a variety of different technologies. In a VMware environment, there's quite a lot of aggregate read-write and the random. Are the new flash vendors better at doing this than a hybrid approach using Tintri?
So obviously, as you state, in a VMware environment, there is a high demand for random-based IOPS. So the more virtual machines that you've got running, obviously the more I/O that's going to be generated, and it's always 100% completely randomized by the hypervisor. So you would think that on the face of things, having a storage platform that is able to sustain very, very high IOPS would be an appropriate fit, hence an all-flash vendor. But the challenge is that whilst SSD technology does a great job of handling large amounts of random reads, it doesn't do a very good job of handling random writes. So you actually need to do some special, or add some special source, if you will, into the product to make sure that it's going to be able to sustain such a large random read percentage. And in fact, if you're rolling out lots of virtual desktops, some 80% of the normal working load, if you will be based on a random write. So it's very important to be able to handle those intelligently. So an all-flash array won't necessarily help you in that space. What Tintri does is we offer a flash-first hybrid array. So I guess the question is how much flash is enough really to service a VM workload? And the answer now obviously is it depends, as it always is with any question in IT. But the reality is we perform things like inline deduplication and compression. That allows us to do a couple of things. First is obviously cut down the number of those random writes that's coming into the SSD partition, but it also allows us to cram even more data into the SSDs. But we also perform working set analytics, which allows us to understand the working set for every virtual disk that's on the system itself to ensure that we're servicing the hottest data always from SSD. So we fundamentally have smarts built into our file system that allows us to perform as well as an all-flash device for a VM environment.
Okay, on the flash side of things, use MLC drives. There are issues about burn rates and things with MLC drives. How do you get around that?
It's an interesting dilemma. So we actually have a couple of layers of protection built into the Tintri architecture. So this is a problem that is very specific to MLC-based flash. And we do see vendors out there in the industry that suffer not just a high burn rate of disk and need to swap them on a regular basis, but they also have the problem of dealing with shuffling around of IOs. So you hear terms of garbage collection, write amplification, the write cliff, and you'll see that when you're handling large volumes of data coming in, what you'll see is that IOs will generally drop off from time to time, latency will go through the roof, and that's while the SSD partition is basically shuffling data around to try and fit more in. What we do at Tintri is we perform inline deduplication and compression that cuts down the number of writes that are actually hitting flash, but we also use mirrored NVRAM to bunch up those small random block writes, so we only ever perform sequential full stripes. So it's a much more efficient mechanism than many of the other all-flash vendors use.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.